It's time for the wrestling perspective. Before we get started, Petey Williams and myself, let's do a little housekeeping, Petey.
Let's do it.
Pete, this show is brought to you by BlueChew.com. If you go to BlueChew.com, you use a promo code Perspective, you get your first order of Blue Chew for free. You just pay $5 shipping and handling. And Pete, during this, ad, it's going to be longer than normal. We have a very special guest to talk about Blue Chew, don't we?
Yes. I mean, I personally, and thank you for giving me her phone number. We were planning a surprise birthday party for you. That's what you thought.
That's what I thought.
But instead, but it's totally not that. We have your wife, Mrs. Farrell, on the phone right now.
Hi, honey.
And she's going to talk about, I guess, Blue Chew and how
I've talked about it, how I use it.
Yeah, how you use it. So, Mrs. Farrell, how are you doing today? Oh, Petey, I'm good. A lot better now because, Dennis is taking the Blue Chew. Well, Dennis taking the Blue Chew. So, how long would you say it's been since he's been doing this? Well, I mean, probably like, I don't know, 6-7 months. I mean, before that, Petey, let me tell you. Oh, it was. Please tell me.
Yeah,
I mean, okay. No. Don't tell me. This is like a G-rated show, PG at sometimes, but you don't have to say it. So, I mean, is everything that Dennis says about Blue Chew? I mean, is it everything that it lives up to?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say before. Okay, let's take it back a bit. Before he was horrible. I mean, like
bad.
Yeah, really bad. Like he always says, like I know you say the minute man, but he was like the second man. I mean, or maybe the 3-second man. I'll give him that. Now, oh man, I mean, I'm telling you, this Blue Chew has like really turned our life around. Wow, Dennis, you hear this? She's talking really, really nice about you. What do you have to say to your wife?
First of all, thank you for putting up with me up until we took the Blue Chew. I know a lot of times when we were intimate together, it was a chore for you, and you had to do a lot of faking and understanding. When I was like done super quick, I'd be like, "Is that the knock at the door? Let me go check." Or be like, "Oh, I was startled. I'm not in the mood anymore." And you did not make me feel ashamed of being a 2-pump chump.
Well, I mean, I think I did a little bit, but I mean. Now I don't tell my friends about that anymore. So I mean, now I speak well of you. Yep. I love you.
I love you too. And look, it was weird because now Pete, I'll be honest, this might have been pillow talk, but she had said, being in her 40s now, that if she were to have another kid, she would want to name the first name Blue and the middle name Chew Farrell.
Blue Chew Farrell.
Yeah.
BC Farrell. I like it.
Yeah, that's how much of an impact it's had on our life, huh, hon?
Yeah, I mean, he'd be our boy, Blue. You're my boy, Blue.
See, Pete, did you know my wife was even that funny? I didn't.
No, I figured she's the type of woman that does not watch old school, but I'm totally wrong.
So, hon, let me, as we wrap this up, I know you have to go and be a mother to our child and. Probably rest up, get some Gatorades, lots of fluids in you because, when Petey and I are done, I'm going to take the Blue Chew, I'm going to come up, and you know what? I'm going to be like Shawn Michaels. I'm going to super kick you down into the bed, if you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean because I don't know any of those guys, but I can't wait. I'm getting the Gatorade. See you. Bye. Love you.
Bye, babe. Anyways, Pete, thank you, by the way, Pete, for setting that up.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, kind of weird that she wanted to go on and talk about, what's going on in the bedroom, but, whatever, man, whatever.
So Blue Chew, made with the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so it works. It has the Mrs. Farrell sign of approval, as you heard. You get it online. There's online doctors. There's no awkward doctor visits. Remember that time, Pete, I came over and you were dressed up like a doctor? And I had to let you do the doctor examination, and it was a little bit weird. Not a lot, just a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that my kids were here and I was playing doctor with them. I think it was all legit.
Oh, so you're saying I
Yeah, you took that
misunderstood?
way out of no, that's not what really happened.
Well,
But I mean, if you want to think so, then yeah. I
it,
mean, that was awkward though.
it was absolutely. But with Blue Chew, you have no awkward doctor visits. So make sure you go to bluechew.com, use the promo code Perspective, get your first order for free, pay $5 shipping and handling. It helps the show. It keeps us going. When we're together. And look, if you guys keep doing it and Blue Chew keeps advertising, maybe we'll get Mrs. Farrell back on for another podcast.
Oh, I mean, to be continued. I like it. I like it.
Thank you. Hey, don't forget Fightful.com. Fightful has wrestling perspective 24 hours early. It is one of the most amazing news sites on the internet right now. They have Fightful Select, which just launched. You go over there, they have all kinds of podcasts, Pete. They have the wrestling perspective with P.D. Williams. They have NXT, NXT UK. They have Ring of Honor, New Japan podcast, Alternative and Dark Match, anything WWE, AEW, the breaking news daily. Go to Fightful.com. The free section by itself is amazing. Fightful Select, phenomenal. Sean Ross Sapp, I can't say enough about them. So go there, check it out. Pete, are you ready to start the show?
Let's do it.
Back and better than ever. It is the wrestling perspective. I'm Dennis Farrell, and he is your national hero, P.D. Williams.
How's she going, eh?
I'm kind of shocked you even remember how to do the intro for the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, I know how to do it. Actually, I have some other American friends that brought up this other Canadian show called Letterkenny, and they don't say how's she going, eh? They say like, how are you now? And the other guy says, good, and you? And he's like, not so bad. Like, it's really weird, like, how this is, the Canadian language is evolving, like, how you make fun of Canada is evolving. So, anyways, that's a little side thing, but things are going good, Dennis. How are you?
Well, good. We haven't talked since the last set of tapings you were at. Let's get down to some scuttlebutt. A lot of it has come out. We're sure we're not going to be breaking any news here this week, but hey, Rhino signs a multi-year deal with Impact. Great news. He's one of those guys that I've always wanted to interview and talk with because everybody seems to say that he is the funniest guy they've ever known.
Maybe not that they ever know, but no, he's super funny, super cool. When I first met him, now I graduated from the Can-Am Wrestling School. He was also a graduate of the Can-Am Wrestling School. When I first met him, I believe ECW was like going out of business or just about there, or not yet. He was like maybe the ECW world champion, because I think they had that on his last show. So I think it was right prior to that. And I was at a Border City wrestling event, and he came, and this is when Scott would book like Rhino and Sabu and like Lance, like all the ECW guys. And he'd like shake everybody's hand, introduce himself to everybody, you know, and you don't see that. Like, you've been backstage, and it's like, you don't see that a lot, where somebody like, you know, that's a big star like that goes and shakes every single person's hand and introduces himself. But that's Rhino. And he did it again when I saw him at the Windsor tapings. He's that type of guy. And then he'll shoot the breeze and laugh it up and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I can't speak like low of Rhino at all. I speak very highly of him.
Is there? Did he remember you? Was he like, Petey, what's going on, my friend?
So, yeah, of course. I mean, I used to travel with him back in the TNA days when we did house shows and all that kind of stuff. But him and I, you know, we flew out of Detroit together, so we'd always get a car, room together, everything together. So yeah, I was his travel partner for a while. So yeah, of course you remembered me. But it was really good seeing him again. I mean, when he signed with Impact, like what, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, last time he was around, and you know, he went on to be the world champion there and do other things and all that kind of stuff. Then he went back to obviously WWE. Now he's back with Impact.
which is great. Yeah, I am so happy to see him there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it just aired like when he came back and they did the angle. Yeah, this just aired on Friday, and the last shot, just great when it comes to production because he gets in the crowd, he gets up in the stands, just like just how you want it, and everybody's surrounding him and just going nuts, and the camera goes dark, and it's a great way to send people home happy. And man, I mean, good ending to a good television show.
Absolutely. I was bummed out. I had other obligations. I couldn't make it, but it would have been great. And, one day we're going to get Rhino on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, Rhino, yeah, definitely. We'll get him on the podcast. I don't know. Does he have a cell phone? I mean, he's a rhino. He's a rhinoceros. But, yeah, I'm sure we can hook him up with one of ours or whatever. We'll figure it out. I think he's new to technology.
I wouldn't doubt it. Can I go on a bit of a wrestling rant here with you today?
Yeah, sure. That's what we're here for.
So one of your tag team partners had put out a tweet recently. Jordynne Grace.
Jordynne Grace?
Yep.
Jordynne Grace, yeah.
Her tweet was transitioning into a new era where wrestlers can accept they're playing characters and don't have to live the gimmick, I'd imagine, right? It was just a tweet she was replying to somebody. That, they're now transitioning into a new era of wrestling where wrestlers don't have to be the gimmick at airports and move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Now, let me tell the other half of this tweet before you jump in. The Jim Cornette, who is somebody I've grown up and liked. I've idolized Jim Cornette growing up, but not so much. This is going to be all me talking, no Petey Williams. Whatever I say here does not reflect or is echoed by the same thoughts of Petey Williams. Does that make you feel better as I go into this?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're going to say, so I can't condone it or anything. So go ahead and say it.
Jim Cornette tweets her, copies a tweet and tweets her and says, translation, I've never been trained popularly or taught to respect the business. I'm just play wrestler who wants to be on reality TV. I don't have the talent or determination to make people believe in me and draw money. Just do moves. That's whatever Jordynne Grace just said. Now, I think that's complete and utter BS. The wrestling business has evolved, and this has been my argument with guys like Jim Cornette. I don't know if you can throw Eric Bischoff into this scenario because I don't know his techniques too well, but certainly Vince Russo, where the business has evolved. They may not like the way it has evolved, but it's evolved. It is thriving with the way wrestling is better now than it ever has before in history. New companies are popping up on TV. There are companies vying for television contracts elsewhere. There's rumors that Impact is willing to buy a TV company just to have a better deal, to buy a TV network. I mean, this is stuff that's going on and being unheard of. And here's Jim Cornette applying 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe even early 90s wrestling logic and tactics to something that's evolved beyond what it used to be and still bashing wrestlers. You look at some of the top wrestlers right now, they're not living the gimmick anymore. Not even The Undertaker anymore is living the gimmick. He's on Instagram walking on hikes and taking pictures with his wife. Pete, this is a dinosaur in the industry, essentially.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. First off, I don't think wrestlers, I don't want to say use Twitter right. It's the problem. The problem is, I can go on Twitter and I could be my character, you know what I mean? And just bash everything, everywhere, all that kind of stuff. And people would be like, oh, why are you so this and so that? And you're so rude. And it's as if Twitter's real, the stuff you say. If a wrestler actually used it to his advantage to get heat, which I believe some do. And I think Jim Cornette is one of those guys. Right now we're talking about him. So he's still relevant in the year 2019. So Jim Cornette's using it right. Whether I agree with what he says or not, that's regardless. But he's using it right. He's getting people fired up. He's getting the new age people talking back to him and, feuding with him on the Twitter wars or whatever you want to call it. So to me, maybe Cornette's working all of us, right?
Oh,
on the
I'm
other
sure
hand,
he is.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't put my personal stuff on Twitter. I use it mainly for wrestling with this show and Impact and stuff I'm doing and maybe some thoughts that I have in my head that I wouldn't normally say to people. I just I throw it out there or whatever, just like Twitter. I just have fun with it, right? I don't use it as anything else except for to have fun. But I don't put my personal stuff on there. So, if people want to start using their real name, whatever, gets people talking, right? That's the thing. It's your account. You can do whatever you want. It's your character. If you want to be in character, out of character, whatever. Little tidbit, Jordynne Grace, I guess she's putting her real name as Patricia Parker. My aunt on my mom's side, her name's Patricia Parker. So, that's kind of weird, especially since we're teaming up coming up now too.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. When I said, why is my aunt on Twitter? I'm like, oh, that's not my aunt. That's Jordynne Grace.
We'll get to that. Trust me. I go back to saying, I agree with what you said. It's personal preference. If you want to use it to share your life, great. If you want to use it to get a character over, which there are a million wrestlers out there doing right now, MJF, one of those guys that's using Twitter primarily to get his character over, and it works. The wrestling business is such a boom, such a height right now that for Jim Cornette to nitpick the way someone like Jordynne Grace, who is one of the most over female wrestlers right now in the industry, is absolute absurd. Here she's doing everything right on TV. She's got a great fan base. She's over, and then here's a guy that wasn't even tagged in the tweet that wants to stick his nose into her business and saying she's not doing it right. When, look, if the industry was scuttling and businesses were closing and everybody was like, oh, the wrestling industry is so horrible, sure, I maybe. But it's not.
No, I agree. I agree with you. Absolutely. You brought up MJF. He's probably one of the guys that really gets his character over on Twitter, and when he does autograph signings too, he has a lineup and people are buying merchandise off him, and he's being so rude to them, which is the exact opposite of what we normally do when people are buying merchandise from us, and it's hilarious. But he's really getting his character over, and he's always in character when he's in front of the fans or he's on the Twitter or whatever. So yeah, he's doing it right. I just had to throw that out there because he brought up his name, and I really appreciate what he does with that.
Oh, absolutely. I was just bummed out to see that. And listen, I've watched MLW for a total of 8 minutes, right? It's not a knock on their product. It's just the way the viewing is. And I think we've talked about how, as wrestling fans, we are almost trained lab rats where you know, on Mondays and now Tuesdays, that's our wrestling nights. And kind of anything outside of that, you have to search it out. And sometimes it's a pain in the butt. I can get into that later. But for stuff like MLW and even Impact at times, it's tough for me to watch it. But I watched it, and Jim Cornette, as much as I loved Jim Cornette on his commentary in his heyday, if you were to blindfold me and play something from the 80s and play something from now, it's almost the same exact shtick. Maybe even the same wording at times. He hasn't, and someone like him doesn't need to evolve, okay? And I'm very high on that. But he just hasn't progressed with the wrestling. And I don't know if I could tell Jim Cornette from the 80s to Jim Cornette now, which, by the way, in the 80s was phenomenal. And I'm sure it's great now, but I've heard it all. I've already lived through that era. I wish I could have heard a different kind of Jim Cornette when I watched MLW.
Yeah, and everybody always says wrestling's evolved, and I won't bring up the name of the person who said it or who he said it to, but when you look at somebody like Jim Cornette, who's he understands the wrestling business is evolved, but he's near the end of his wrestling career, so he doesn't have to evolve. He could still keep doing what he's doing. He's getting booked. right? And just doing what he's been doing for forever. So, good for him. And me, I know, like, I'm reaching not the end, but like, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm in my early 20s, so I can't do half of what these guys are doing nowadays. Like, it's ridiculous. And I mean, I'm evolving with it, but I'm like, there's only so much I can evolve. Like, evolution has a stopping point for certain individuals. I mean, I try my best, but I could do a lot more with my mind behind the camera, helping the guys put together their matches and stuff like that, because they can do all the moves better than I can do them. But at least I could get the story across.
By the way, I didn't want this podcast to go by without saying you guys signed another phenomenal talent in Tenelle Dashwood, formerly Emma of WWE. She signs with Impact. Huge. I'm so excited for this move, by the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess from what they're promoting is she's going to debut when we're in Mexico City in August. I don't know if they ever advertised for this weekend. Not sure. But yeah, I was just reading that. When did they say that? Yesterday, today, something like that. So yeah, big acquisition. I mean, we just had Rhino. What was it, like last week or 2 weeks ago? We just signed him, and now we have her. And I mean, more to come, I guess, right?
Did you know? I mean, being in some of these meetings, when did you know you guys had Rhino?
Well,
Yeah, or you rather not say?
Can't really talk about that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I just thought I'd throw it out there and see if I got an answer out of you. But I get it. We'll leave that one to an offline topic. How about the conversation?
Yeah, sounds good.
I think I just heard you say thank you, Dennis.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That sounds good.
Let's move on. Listen, we don't talk a lot of WWE stuff here, but Seth Rollins recently on a conference call had some interesting comments, and it was something that I was interested in to talk to you about. And kind of here's it. He was on a SummerSlam conference call, I want to say like a week ago. And Rollins started talking about Jon Moxley going to AEW, and he was quoted as saying, "I was surprised by it. I knew Ambrose needed time away from the WWE. Now he's competition, trying to take dinner off my table." So that conversation, or that comment, taking dinner off my table, really caught me by surprise, where here's a guy, and how many times have we talked about how the more businesses out there, the better off everyone thrives, right? The boys are working wherever now. And that comment was almost like, you know what? And sure, he's direct competition, but taking dinner off of his plate, I think those were the worst words he could use to describe that situation.
Yeah, I would say that's a bad choice of words for many reasons because, well, A, when you say that you're taking dinner off my table, that means that Seth Rollins, who's well, he's not the champ anymore, but he's like the
face of the company.
Yeah, pretty maybe, but let's say he's one of the faces of the company. And now he's saying on a conference call that AEW is a threat, like competition, like so they're acknowledging it, which WWE has never done that before. I remember when we were Impact back in the day, we're taking all the jabs at them in the world, and this is prior to social media and all that stuff. But they didn't even respond, and now it's almost like they are responding to this stuff. So that's really interesting because that WWE doesn't do that. Like they just don't even acknowledge that other people are out there. But I think people like that WWE isn't being ignorant to the fans, like they're acknowledging it. So they're like, yeah, we know you fans are smart. Like we have social media. You could see everything that's going on. Where Jon Moxley went, all that kind of stuff. So it's good that WWE is acknowledging like the intelligence of their fans, because when they were doing it with, when we were doing it with Impact, I thought it was you're insulting your fans because, hey, there is another company. Like when somebody comes into your company from Impact, it's not like, hey, who is this guy? It's like, what do you mean, who is this guy? Like, he's been on TV for like 5 years on Impact. Like, People know who he is.
I wish I saw, and I'm glad you kind of said something about this, because there was another thing that came out, and Jim Cornette, by the way, was the center of controversy. As you talk, I may try to look it up. It had something to do with people using their real names. I believe your good friend Austin Creed, aka Xavier Woods, jumped in on this whole Jim Cornette thing, by the way, and this is going back to using your original name on Twitter and being an original person. He and this was a whole conversation, by the way. Lance Storm was in it, and I'll read just a little bit of what Creed said. He goes, I can't speak on this topic for all professional wrestlers / sports entertainers, but I know that in my situation, I do not own the name Xavier Woods. This means that I cannot perform under that name once my career with WWE eventually comes to an end. At some point, Xavier Woods will not be able to, shake his hips well, will not be able to throw pancakes as far, and won't be able to get beat up by giants that he works with and still be able to walk. At that time, dear God, I hope that that's no time soon, I will have to walk away from Xavier Woods. I've seen many people before me finish their careers, then be at a loss of what to do next for their next chapter of their lives. This thought has always terrified me, and that is one of the main reasons I hustled to get through school while still wrestling. As we all know, through TNA, he was getting his master's?
Yeah, and I think he got his PhD in WWE.
I believe that the current generation of performers is doing their best to learn from the mistakes of those who came before us that were making an attempt to use their technology available to them to do so. I love video games. I created a YouTube channel about them, and I chose to use, let's see here, and it gets kind of cut off here, but he chose to use his real name instead of Xavier Woods so he can keep doing it. That's just me riffing off of it. So Xavier Woods jumped in on this topic to say, hey, one day I'm not going to be Xavier Woods. And how many times on this podcast, Pete, have we talked about, like, you know what? Everybody says, let's say Dolph Ziggler wants to leave WWE and he goes somewhere else. Will he be as successful somewhere else under a different name, or is it just tied to Dolph Ziggler?
I mean, they do a good. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's a name. Like, the thing is, Xavier Woods had been Consequences Creed before, so like when you throw out their Austin Creed, people are like, "Oh yeah, I remember you were Creed, like whatever." Dolph Ziggler's always been Dolph Ziggler, minus when he was in the Spirit Squad. So no, I mean, the guys do it like a really good job. Like, what was Drew McIntyre's name? I can't even remember in Impact. I wasn't there for it, but Drew Galloway or something like that, or. Mm-hmm. So they do a good job of like having part of their name, and then
sometimes,
but then sometimes like you're stuck, like it's tough. It's really tough. Like that
Chris
WWE
Masters.
name does. Yeah, Chris Masters. Then he was man. What was he?
Chris Adonis, I think.
Yeah, that's right, Chris Adonis. So I mean, we try to all that kind of stuff, like Johnny Impact, right? Johnny, he's John something. Everywhere he goes, he's a different last name, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So it depends, but no, definitely that first name that they make the name for themselves as it sticks. I mean, imagine if they would have switched like AJ Styles' name when he went to WWE, or Samoa Joe. People would be like, "Man, this is ridiculous." I mean, it worked for like guys like Kevin Steen and El Generico and stuff like that. But they I don't feel they were as popular as like an AJ or a Joe.
Up and down the roster, you see that kind of stuff. And when guys like him, or Ken Anderson, there's another guy.
Yeah, Ken Kennedy. Yeah,
it seems to take, in my opinion, steam away from a character we grew up loving and watching. If Macho Man left the WWE and had to be, something else, Randy Vicious, it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, and I mean, those guys like were able to get away with it because they trademarked it themselves, all that kind of stuff. So they were good. But nowadays, like if you go in there, you have a new name, you're getting trademarked, which is good. Like if AJ Styles leaves tomorrow, guess what? He still gets to be AJ Styles. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's unless he signed over the rights to his name, which I don't think he would have, because he probably knows exactly like Xavier Woods was saying. There is, you have to figure out what's going to happen after wrestling.
Ultimate Warrior eventually legally changed his name to the Ultimate Warrior so he could use it.
Yeah, I mean, you can always do that, right?
So, but in how many times on how many past podcasts have we debated, if a guy left the WWE tomorrow and, he dressed the same, he looked the same, but his name was just totally different, would he still be able to get over? And I kind of tend to say 9 times out of 10, no, they don't get over because we are so tied to a wrestler's name that we know.
It depends. Like if you look at people that have left, like Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre and stuff like that, those guys are more over when they came back than when, before then when they were out the door. So it depends on the individual. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, people are like, oh yeah, I remember this guy. This guy was this in WWE and now he's this. Okay, yeah, people understand it's a copyright thing. But it's almost like they do the exact same thing. Like they have the exact same moveset. The promos are the same. They might be a different character per se, but I mean, they're still that wrestler. So, I mean, it worked with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. I think they're.
Totally different.
Yeah, it is totally different.
Because they were Razor Ramon and Diesel. Then they go to WCW and they're Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. They look different. They might have talked a little bit about the same, but they look different. They came in on a whole different angle. If you were to go, Samoa Joe shows up on WWE tomorrow and is, James Uso, it wouldn't have been the same.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I mean, I'm comparing apples and oranges with the Scott Hall, Kevin Nash thing because they were huge stars in WWE, and then WCW, they already had like the Hulkster and stuff like that. They ended up winning in the ratings war for a little bit. So, I mean, that's apples and oranges. I mean, I'm just...
Let's even say Lex Luger. Lex Luger leaves WCW to WWE, and they changed his name to, Muscle Flexington. He wouldn't be Lex Luger.
Yeah. The same with like Ric Flair. I mean, that's partially his real name, but spelled different. But yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it.
Maybe.
Yeah, the name does mean a lot. Like that first one that you fall in love with as a fan, you're like, oh man, I love this guy, and then why'd they change his name? That's stupid. Like it doesn't make sense. And you know what I mean? You can't connect this well anymore as like a kid or anything like that.
If I wonder if Johnny Impact, right? Let's use him as an example. If he would have left John Morrison WWE, went somewhere else and kind of owned his own name, it would have been John Morris or John Morriston or whatever. Let's say he tried to go as close as possible and got away with it. I think he would have been bigger now. Not saying he isn't big, because that name would follow him and he would have created and kept that brand instead of going Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, Johnny Honor or Ring of Honor or whatever. To me, that kills a lot of the momentum you bring to a different company when you have to rebrand or repackage that name.
No, I agree with you. I mean, it sucks, but I mean, what else do you do besides you can't get around copyright laws? So I mean, it sucks.
And Dolph Ziggler, I guess to me right now is going to be, let's say he ever leaves, even maybe The Miz. You take those two guys, and I think those two guys on that main roster would be the most impacted by this if they were to leave and go to Ring of Honor, Impact, AEW, wherever they go. I believe that in WWE, with those names, they are phenomenal, top-of-the-world talents. But you bring those two guys to any one of those promotions somewhere else, and you give them a different name, you suffer. You're chasing the tail with trying to rebrand and I guess, program people to think that they're no longer the Miz or they're John Mizarian or whatever he's going to call his name, Mike Mizarian there. So yeah, it's tough. It's a catch-22 because you get this talent, but now you have to reprogram everybody.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of an instance where it actually worked. Can't think of anything on top of my head. If people, if you're listening at home, think of ones that we may have forgotten where somebody else got more popular off of a different name.
Boy, that's a tough one because
Yeah.
now I'm starting to think, and I'm not talking, and this isn't like going upwards where, all right, Kevin Steen has gotten more popular off a different name. It's going downwards when you're at the
Yeah.
top and you have to go down.
Yeah, the opposite way. Yeah, no, yeah, totally. I agree with that because if you can always brand them to go up, that's always worked. But to go the other way, yeah, it's tough.
And a lot of times it's not a great name. I mean, I thought Kende Anderson was kind of close and was okay. It could have been something, but I don't think naming on Kende Anderson's part was his fault. I don't even know. I mean, how much in Impact today? How much leeway does a wrestler have coming in? Because I don't think you guys really try to rename or repackage guys anymore in Impact, do you?
It depends. If like a lot of times again, it's social media. Like we hire people like the Jordynne Grace or Ethan Page. They have a following and stuff, and people know them as these characters. Like believe it or not, when we brought Ethan Page in the first time, he was Abyss's brother's brother or something like that. Like Joseph Parks. He was Chandler Park. That's what Ethan Page was. He was Chandler Park, and he played this character, this goofy character like Joseph Park and all that kind of stuff. But people knew. They're like, "Oh, that's Ethan Page." Those that know him. And now he's being Ethan Page. So, yeah, we at Impact. It depends. Like that's the best way to say it. It depends. Like we're not going to try to, if somebody's popular and already popular on the indies or other places, we're not going to try to rebrand their name or anything like that. And then some people were like, yeah, okay, let's give him this name because it sounds too much, familiar, like a guy up and coming. It sounds too familiar to somebody else that's already on our roster or whatever the case may be.
And that to me is great because you let them build their brand and a lot of times you guys have learned from your mistakes, a la, the Matt Harley broken gimmick. And Harley talked about how of a mistake it was the fight that these guys can do this with you guys and then take it somewhere else and still be popular at times.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the gamble that you take because you don't know if something's going to get super, super over. Like when you think about it, like sometimes when you think about things, you're like, man, this is so well written. Oh, this is gonna be the next huge thing, and then it flops, right? Mm-hmm. And then something little that you don't think's gonna get over gets huge, and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Okay, so you just can never predict in wrestling like that.
Do you think? And I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Is popular as Stone Cold Steve Austin was, right? If let's say, when did his career end? About 2002, 2004, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit later.
Somewhere around there, like in-ring career. Yeah, it's like right around WrestleMania.
Let's say
18 or something like that.
Let's say he leaves WWE. TNA throws him a massive deal to show up and work for TNA, right? Mm-hmm. And he shows up as Stunning Steve Austin. Would he still command the same? I'm kind of thinking about this, where if Stone Cold showed up as Stunning Steve after the Stone Cold run in WWE elsewhere, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, and this is tough because I don't know how much of the rights he owns to his like Stone Cold Steve Austin and how much WWE owns, or The Rock's using The Rock on his movies and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if they bought him. I have no idea how that works. But yeah, definitely not. Like if somebody, like it's all in the name. Like if you put on a poster or just say like you're listening to the radio and they're like, yeah, Stunning Steve Austin's going to be at, this Impact show. People are going to be like, I don't even know who that is. Is that like some local guy or whatever? But if you say Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be here, yeah, a lot's in a name, like a household name that people know. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, On the flip side, we talked about the Miz and
Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler.
Already you forgot. I guess.
I forgot. But on the flip side, Jay Lethal now, a household name in Impact and TNA, has made an amazing name for himself in Ring of Honor. Let's say Jay Lethal makes the jump to WWE and gets a Xavier Woods type name change. It would benefit him, I think.
Possibly. I mean, Jay doesn't use a lot of social media and stuff like that, but he's very popular in Ring of Honor. Before he came to Impact, this like back in 2000 whatever, he was Jay Lethal in Ring of Honor. He actually started with like Special K. I can't remember what his character's name was. It was like a one word name. Then he transitioned to Jay Lethal, and he's been that for 15 years now, maybe more. But would it benefit him? People just have to get over that hump. You know what I mean? Like when Kevin Steen showed up and then in NXT, all of a sudden he was Kevin Owens. I'm like, okay, I kept calling him Steen for like ever. And then eventually, it's been years and it's like, okay, he's Kevin Owens. Like it takes people a little bit of getting used to, but WWE, like they do such a good job of just like pushing that new name down your throat. It's like, okay, this is the person now.
Yep, understandable. Let's move on. We talked a lot about Jordynne Grace earlier. Let's talk some positive stuff about her, you, and Scotty Steiner. We talked many podcasts ago about how Shakara asked you guys to get together for King of Trios. So far, it's taken the internet by storm.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna. I mean, when Quackenbush contacted me like, hey, this is what's going on. Did you see that? Do you want to make it happen? And I helped them get like Jordan and Scott booked, and it was a big team effort, and it was happening. And then that was announced. God, I don't know. It was announced in May, so like 5 months ahead of time. We were like the first group announced, and yeah, like you said, Dennis, the internet goes nuts, and then obviously people are gonna be like, yeah, that's a great idea. Look at this is a great idea. Let's do this idea over here. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, it's a hot thing. People are going to want to take advantage of it. And then obviously I'll take advantage of it if it works with Scotty's schedule and Jordan's schedule. I mean, if it's a thing, it's a thing. Ride that out. That's how wrestling works, right?
Have you talked to Scott much about this? I mean, let's be honest. You didn't talk to Scott a lot before this happened. Have your conversations with Scott not improved, but grown?
No. I mean, Scott knows I'm a professional, so like he just contacted. Like he knew that Quackenbush was doing this. Like obviously Scott has his ear to the ground when it comes to wrestling and what's going on out there. And then he just texted me out of the blue and he said, hey, are you free this date? And I said, let me check. Yep. Okay. And then he goes, I want to do, you, Steiner and Jordan, Impact Plus. I said, okay, where is it? California. Okay, let's do it. I mean, that was that simple for me. And then we didn't talk about it. The last set of tape, we have not talked about it.
Really?
I talked about it more with Jordan, but not even that much. Like I was like, hey, you ready for August 2nd? Did you hear about it? Like almost like we didn't know what was happening. Like either of us, I'm like, hey, did you hear? Yeah, I heard. Did you hear? Okay, good. We're doing that. Like, yeah, we both know. But that was about it. She's like, oh, I'm excited, and all this kind of stuff to work with him and all that. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a blast. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know who we're wrestling. I'm super excited about it. I just made a video today that Impact put on social media, reference the Impact Plus show on August 2nd. It's going to be good. I'm excited for it.
I'm excited. I saw the video. I was blown away. You sent me a text and I saw the video clip. I actually pulled over on the road, put it on. I listened and watched it and immediately told you it was awesome because you have some sort of editing skills I didn't even know you had.
Yeah, dude, I could do like I don't have time to do that stuff. But today, like I'm trying to promote, the Impact Plus and stuff. And I'm like, hey, what can I do? Like, and I was just thinking, like, it didn't take me any time. And I'm like, I knew at the beginning, middle, and end was going to look like. And I'm like, okay, I just got to film this. And then I filmed the shots really quick. And then I edited it and then just threw it out there. I mean, it was a pretty quick deal I feel, for one person. It was me by myself doing it. And yeah, I mean, I love doing that stuff, man. there's so many people that are better at it than me, I guess. I got the vision. When I got the vision in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is how I want it to look. This is how I want it to end. This is the story I want to tell. So it's a minute long. I mean, if you want to watch it, please go ahead and watch it. I enjoyed doing it, and I liked rewatching it after I edited it all in. But yeah, that's a passion of mine right there. Like telling that story, being able to edit it and get people to go look and then go, oh, and all that kind of stuff. Like that's, I think a lot of people like doing that. They just don't know how.
Let me ask you this, and this is going to, I know the answer, because I guess the question is, you're going to kind of step back in the little PD Pump world, which I know you don't care. You enjoyed it, and wherever it takes you, you're willing to go on this ride. Is there part of you that thinks, all right, this time around with little PD Pump, there's a story I want to tell that I didn't get to tell the first time around?
That's a good question. Wow. I haven't thought of that. I like the first time around, we were kind of like making it up as we go. Like it was, Russo just said, hey, I think you and Scott would make a good team later on, after seeing your interaction. Like literally like 2 weeks later, we're teaming together after we feuded and stuff. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do this like initiation type stuff. Oh, okay, cool. And like I mean, I don't know what other story we would be able to tell. That's a good question. I mean, I haven't really thought of it. Just teaming up. I liked what we did in 2000, I think it was 18 at Redemption, when he came in on me and started doing math and, making fun. And I kind of played off of old things. So, I would like to maybe play off of like some more math stuff and all that kind of stuff, just because just old stuff I want to play off of. I don't know if I want to create a bunch of new stuff. But you never know, man. I mean, we'll get our heads together and maybe something will happen. Something amazing will happen.
I know all this stuff comes down to a budget thing, but boy, I would love to see you at least go on one more big run. I mean, is it like you challenged Eli Drake for the World Heavyweight Championship? I would love to see you do that again, but this time with Scott Steiner as your manager.
Yeah, I mean, it would work, especially with Brian Cage being our world champion right now. He's like a Steiner type of built guy when Steiner was in his heyday. So yeah, I mean that could definitely work.
All right. Well, listen, Pete. Very Jordynne Grace heavy. We're gonna definitely tag her if she's listening. Hi, we're big fans of yours.
I guess we have to, right? But I mean, very Jordynne Grace heavy. Like I'm teaming with her coming up this Friday. But that's what we got going on with the Impact Plus, and then on Saturday it's Twitch, and then on Sunday it's our TV tapings. That's August 4th. I'll only be there for the one date I was only able to commit to, but that's on the Impact Plus, Unbreakable. That's going to be in Santa Ana, California. If that sounded weird the way I said it, Santa Ana, California. If you're there in that area, if not, you could, watch it on the app, Impact Plus.
Man, I'm excited for this. I'm excited for you, Jordynne Grace, Steiner getting together. Hopefully there's a bigger story to tell with Steiner. I'd hate to see this be a one-off, but once again, I understand it. He's got a show needs to run,
Yeah, he does. And, man, I don't know. Like the big deal is Steiner in this. Like I get it. It's Scott Steiner. I mean, people listen to him and still like. I don't know if it's like they get entertained by Scott Steiner. Mm-hmm. Definitely, he's very entertaining. The second one is like Jordynne Grace has never really done this gimmick. She just took a picture of it. So that's kind of a big thing too. How's this going to play out? Everybody knows what it's like for Petey Williams to play little Petey Pump. So it's like, I'm there, but I'm part of the show, and it's gonna be it'll be good. I'm excited. I wish I could stay longer in California, but I'm excited for it.
I wonder how they write you out of that angle.
I don't know if it's an angle going in, like I don't know. And I don't know how long it's going or if it's going to be a one-time thing. Like I know when we had our one of our last Impact Plus shows prior to Bachelor Brewery, it was A Night You Can't Miss, and Great Muda was on there. So that was like a one-time thing as well. So I don't know if this can be a one-time thing or if it's going to be going on. Keep them going. So stay tuned.
All right, Pete, time to promote. Where can people find you?
On Twitter at IPDWilliams.
Follow me on Twitter at Dennis77Farrell, Farrell. Head over to Facebook, Wrestling Perspective Podcast. Wherever podcasts are, that's where Wrestling Perspective is. Subscribe, download, rate it wherever you are. Tell your friends. It's a fun show. I don't know, 50 minutes of shenanigans. And by the way, thank you to my wife who showed up, Pete. I don't know how you pulled that off, but you did.
It wasn't easy, but I was able to do it. And what about your Wrestling with Sports?
You know what? We just had Jim Ross on, which very intimidating character. I will say that. Thank you for bringing that up. Wrestling with Sports podcast. Dave Christ, myself, and Jason Kendall, former MLB baseball player. We talk wrestling with athletes and sports with wrestlers. It's kind of a cool concept. We've just had Jim Ross on, so find it. Look for it. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good week, guys. We'll talk to you later.